I might not have all philosophers at my fingertips, but let me tell you about Camus. His words hit differently, delving into the absurd, freedom, madness, and the meaning of life. Genius thoughts aren't microwave ready. Stick with it, and you'll see the brilliance unfold. Ready to dive in? In the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me, there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back. Albert Camus is often considered one of the emblematic figures of the philosophy of the absurd, a movement of thought that explores the paradoxical and bewildering nature of human existence. Camus' philosophy of absurdism is best captured in an image, that of the Greek mythological figure Sisyphus. Sisyphus was the founder of the Greek city of Corinth. He was known to be the craftiest of all humans, and craftier than Zeus himself. When he was sent to the underworld, he managed to trick his way out. In some stories, he tricks Thanatos, in other stories, Hades, and in other stories, Persephone. He escapes and returns to the earth and revels in the pleasure of the world before eventually being returned to the underworld, where he is punished to roll a boulder up a hill and watch it roll back down again, at which point he returns to the bottom of the hill and repeats the process quite literally ad infinitum. There's 3 reasons why Sisyphus is Camus's icon of absurdism. 1. There's his love of life seen by his cheating his way out of the underworld and returning to enjoy the pleasures of the world once again, which is strongly antithetical to the life-denying brand of nihilism. 2. A second reason is Sisyphus's punishment, the absurdity of rolling a rock up a hill only to see it roll back down again and being forced every time to roll it back up again, knowing the inevitable outcome. Sisyphus is stuck in an eternal cycle of absurdity. 3. The third reason Sisyphus is Camus' embodiment of absurdism is that he is a rebel. He outwits death and the gods to return to life. He rebels against the fundamental order of things. He rebels against the gods. All of these points come together in Camus' great line that closes out his book. I leave Sisyphus at the foot of the mountain. One always finds one's burden again. But Sisyphus teaches the higher fidelity that negates the gods and raises rocks. He too concludes that all is well. This universe henceforth without a master seems to him neither sterile nor futile. Each atom of that stone, each mineral flake of that night-filled mountain in itself forms a world. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. And so absurdism is not about finding a meaning to life, but about rebelling against the absurdity of life. It's about standing aloof of the demand to find a meaning, rebelling against the absurd game itself, and affirming life for what it is. It is to struggle with integrity, because this struggle towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Faced with the crisis of meaninglessness that nihilism presents, the absurdist doesn't throw a tantrum and kill themselves. The absurdist doesn't grab onto the nearest life raft and commit philosophical suicide. The absurdist affirms the struggle and enjoys life for what it is. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. This endless cycle symbolizes the futility of our efforts and the endless repetition of our actions in a world that seems indifferent to our aspirations. The image of Sisyphus thus represents the human condition where we face seemingly insurmountable challenges and obstacles, and where our actions may seem vain and meaningless. So, despite our efforts to find meaning in our existence, we are confronted with a universe that remains indifferent to our quests for meaning. However, even in this recognition of the absurdity of life, Camus does not preach despair. On the contrary, he suggests that we can find a certain kind of freedom in accepting this absurdity. Camus sees hope in absurdity. He asserts that if life offers no pre-established meaning, that's precisely where our freedom lies. We have the power to create our own meaning, regardless of how arbitrary or subjective it may seem. He tells us that in the absurd, life itself has no meaning, but each individual can give it one. In his reflection, Camus proposes three fundamental attitudes towards the absurdity of life: suicide, faith, and acceptance. He categorically rejects the first, suicide, deducing that it brings no more sense to death than to life itself. In this regard, he wrote a brilliant sentence: "Should I kill myself or have a cup of coffee?" The absurdity of the world may sometimes crush us under the weight of our problems or the lack of meaning, but a cup of coffee can make it all fade away, keeping us anchored to reality. Likewise, he dismisses the path of faith, considering submitting to dogmatic beliefs as giving up our ability to reason for ourselves. For Camus, accepting the absurdity of life is the only viable path. It is by fully recognizing this disconcerting reality and choosing to confront it with courage and lucidity that we can find true value in our existence. By embracing absurdity, we affirm our freedom to create our own meaning and to live authentically. This message resonates particularly in our modern era, where we are often overwhelmed by an excess of choices, distractions, and information. In this context, Camus' philosophy offers a compass to navigate the complexity of our world. By accepting life, we can free ourselves from the constraints of uncertainty and anxiety. Albert Camus wrote, "In the depths of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer." In absurdity, there are two fundamental aspects to consider. On the one hand, there is the unstoppable desire of human beings to seek meaning in their lives, a perpetual quest rooted deep within our nature. This aspiration is often described by Camus as an invincible summer, a season of warmth and light where the human soul burns with an intensity of desire for meaning and understanding. On the other hand, there is the relentless reality that the world itself seems to offer no intrinsic meaning. It's as if we are faced with a heart of winter, a season of cold and desolation, where the absence of meaning seems to envelop the universe in relentless coldness. In this apparent void, individuals often find themselves lost, desperately seeking an anchor in a bewildering world. It is precisely when these two forces, the invincible summer of the desire for meaning and the heart of winter of the lack of meaning, collide, that the absurd is formed. In this state of absurdity, individuals may find themselves as entire universes unto themselves, isolated in their inner struggle between the desire for meaning and the reality of the world. This poignant image illustrates the depth of the human condition, according to Camus, where each individual is confronted with their own version of the absurd, navigating through the tumultuous waters of existence with only the fragile light of their own consciousness as a guide. Therefore, in the philosophy of the absurd, we are invited to contemplate the depths of our own condition, to recognize the duality of our desire for meaning and the often senseless nature of the world around us. Albert does not urge us to recognize absurdity by not desperately seeking meaning in external structures of society, in our relationships with others, and even in the events of our daily lives. It is by exploring our thoughts, emotions, and experiences that we can progressively develop an authentic sense of ourselves and the world around us. You will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life. Engaging in this inner search, we discover our true passions, our deepest desires, and free ourselves from the chains of external illusion that hold us back. By connecting to this inner core, we find a source of strength and resilience that allows us to navigate through the challenges and trials of life with courage and determination. This is particularly crucial when we find ourselves facing extremely difficult moments in our lives. By staying connected to our inner being, to this invincible summer, we can pass through these trials without losing our essence, without being overwhelmed by despair or disillusionment. Camus tells us, "The consolation of this world is that there is no continuous suffering. One pain fades away and a joy is reborn. Everything balances out. This world is compensated." The moments of trauma in our lives are tests through which we all pass at some point, and they can take different forms and intensities, whether it's losing a job, going through a divorce, or the death of a loved one. These events confront us with the fragility and absurdity of life. When we find ourselves in such situations, it is natural to feel a sense of loss of control, loneliness, or uncertainty. It is in these moments of despair that we fully realize the absurdity of life, how our plans and aspirations can be swept away by circumstances, often without warning. However, it is also in these moments of discomfort that an opportunity for rebuilding and giving meaning to our lives lies. By accepting the absurdity of the situation, we are liberated from illusions and expectations that can hold us prisoner. We then have the opportunity to construct our interpretation of events, to find meaning and direction in apparent chaos. Camus tells us that despair is the absence of faith in the future. He also tells us that despair is a form of suicide. Rather than succumbing to the temptation to curse our fate and lose ourselves in self-pity, it is essential to step back and find a constructive way to address our pain. One of the keys to overcoming these moments of crisis is to spend more time in solitude, away from external distractions, to reflect deeply on our existence, making peace with the past and accepting that it cannot be changed is an essential first step towards healing and personal growth. Camus tells us the true generosity towards the future lies in total gift to the present. Albert Camus developed a vision of freedom and action that emphasizes constructive rebellion and affirmation of life. For him, freedom is not simply a state of comfort or satisfaction, but rather a state of constant rebellion against forces that seek to alienate or oppress us. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. He firmly believed that to truly change the world and live an authentic life, one must be in a state of perpetual rebellion, by giving everything of oneself in every present moment. Being a rebel means, for him, being aware of one's values and beliefs, and being ready to actively defend them, even when it means opposing social norms or established conventions. I rebel, therefore I exist. Camus also rejects the idea that ends justify means. For him, Betraying one's current self for a future self, or for a hypothetical cause, is a form of dishonor to oneself. By following one's values in life, leading a life of integrity, one's self-esteem and pride are elevated, giving meaning to one's life. Camus tells us, "The essential thing is to live well, to live fully, to make life last, and not to say that life is beautiful." Absurdism is the next step, and the overcoming of Nietzsche's nihilism. If you want to learn more about Nietzsche, from whom all this philosophical thread ultimately stems, watch the video in the top right corner.